Hello, hello, and welcome to Odds on Premier League. Match day 13, the weekend of Liverpool, Manchester City, and who knows, the Premier League may consider bringing the trophy to Anfield on Sunday in case Tom Liverpool wins. Ruben Amorim will have his baptism in Old Trafford. Chelsea will try to add one more game to Aston Villa's winless run. We have a Tottenham Fulham and plenty more to talk with Tom Rennie. Good morning, Tom. How are you?
I like the idea of the Premier League just giving them the trophy this weekend, just giving up on it. Forget it. We'll come back in August. Liverpool are too good. I don't like to see City like this. Pep keeps scratching himself. Just have it now. I like that idea.
You guys, please stay with us. Press the like button, subscribe, and now let's get on with the show. Remember, guys, to leave us your comment while we're doing the video, and also after we have done the video with Tom Rennie. Tom, the first one to open Matchday 13 is on Friday, Brighton, Southampton. After the defeat in Anfield, Brighton is on 2 consecutive wins. Manchester City at home and Bournemouth last weekend. A remarkable debut campaign for Fabian Hetzel. At home, no defeats so far for the Seagulls. 3 wins and 3 draws. They are doing it without important players out injured, which is even more impressive, but they have João Pedro and Mitoma fit and also scoring again. Southampton, again, yes, competed well against Liverpool, but 6 defeats in the last 8 does not help their case to avoid relegation. How many more goals are they going to give to the opposition? I just don't know, Tom. Do you see them standing any chance at the Amex?
Well, I mean, I don't think a wise person would suggest Southampton are going to win a game of football. 1 win in 12, as you mentioned, is not a particularly respectable record. And look, you're absolutely right to say that some of the performance against Liverpool, as it was against Arsenal, as it was against Manchester City, yeah, it was good. There were some good moments. But in the end, if you're going to play the way they are, they need better players and they need to execute. It's all well and good having plans. It's all well and good having a philosophy. That's great. I encourage that. We love that as football fans. But if you can't execute, it looks awful. And there was the goals given away against Liverpool, but also there was a moment where it may have been 𝗀𝗵𝗲𝗄𝐻. I forget which player it was. They picked it up on the edge of their area and they drive through midfield and they've gained 40, 50 yards with the ball. You think, oh, this is good. And he just passed it straight over the sideline for a Liverpool throw because he didn't know what to do next. So Southampton seem like they're trying to run before they can walk, and it's costing them in every single game. You could argue that we used to have that conversation a lot about Brighton. The thing is, with Brighton, they've won half of their games, 2 in a row, 3 of 5, and they have done this for year upon year upon year. And as you mentioned, 𝐿𝐵𝗵𝗄, who was tremendous in this previous run, suspended for a couple of yellow cards. You've got Tariq Lamptey, who is continually injured. Adam Webster has been out. Lewis Dunk has been out. James Milner has been out. Solly March remains out. So, look, really good players in their team, but also so many missing, as you alluded to. So it's incredible they keep on doing this. But they lost Evan Ferguson. He's sort of in, he's sort of out. They want to loan him out. So Danny Welbeck has come in and scored a whole bunch of goals. Karam Mitoma has been fit and been creating every single week. I mean, you could go on and on about so many players. Like they had this kid 𝐻𝐸, who I'd not seen before he came on against Arsenal a few weeks ago. And now he's bossing Premier League games in midfield. It's extraordinary what they've done. So 6 games, Hetzel yet to lose at home, 3 draws and 3 victories in that time. They beat Manchester City. They beat Tottenham Hotspur. Struggled against Ipswich a few weeks ago. So I do note that when looking ahead to this game. But you can't really see beyond a Brighton win here, mainly because the Southampton form is so poor. So firstly, take the Brighton win. It's only about 1-4. Could be slightly above that when we get to the weekend, but that's the first tip. Absolutely take it. Then look at both teams to score. Brighton's home games this season, 11 goals scored in 6. That's just under 2 goals per game, but it's also over 1 goal per game conceded in 8. Southampton do have goal scorers. They have scored against Liverpool and City this season. I know it's only 3 goals away from home, but they are able to score goals. Brighton do leave that back door open, and there is pace in behind with Southampton. Plus, if they get a corner and they've got that giant Paul Onuachu up front, there's every chance he turns something home as well. So Brighton win, both teams to score, 2.63. In recent form, it isn't Danny Welbeck for Brighton, it's João Pedro, who's been tremendous. Pedro to score and Brighton to win, nearly doubles your money. And also, it's a little bit adventurous, this. But if you're looking for high scoring, and I'm just still a little bit skeptical of high scoring, Brighton to score 3 or more goals is 2.2. So relatively conservative bets, but Brighton win with both teams scoring and Pedro being on the score sheet. That's what I'm looking at here.
Yeah, and actually, Milad on the comment section asking if Brighton a straight win is a safe bet. Could be, it's not bad, regarding taking into account the odds.
Yeah, I think so. I think 1.4, I think that feels like a safe bet. Anything under about 1.6 is a safe bet.
Absolutely. So that's the first game on Matchday 13. Then we move on to Brentford, Leicester City. That's on Sunday. Finally, a point for Brentford away from home after the 0-0 with Everton in Goodison Park. And considering they were down to 10 men for, I believe, a little bit more than 50 minutes after Norgard was sent off, that should be, I guess they travel back to London feeling satisfied. They are the best home team of the Premier League so far, scoring on average of 3 goals a game. Leicester is without a manager, but about apparently to appoint 𝗀𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗍𝗀. They lost 3 of the last 4 Premier League games. Looking at that, 1.68 for a Brentford win. At least it seems like a good start. Tom, how do you see it?
Yeah, it's another near safe bet. Absolutely take Brentford up and down to win this game and throw it in an accumulator. You'll make some money. At home, defensively very strong. Midfield is very combative, and the forward score goals. I mean, that's a perfect combination of things for Brentford right now. The goalkeeper makes great saves. Across the back line, Nathan Collins, when I've seen them, has really impressed me this season. You mentioned in midfield that they'll be able to play the skipper because his red card was rightly rescinded. The Everton red card was a joke, and I can't believe, frankly, it was given on the field, then given on review, like ridiculous red card given last week. So that's really good news. And up front, 𝐬𝐿 and Brian and 𝗵𝗲, they score goals. So loads of positives. In terms of Leicester, Steve Cooper was a bad appointment. You can't hire someone. I can't believe this has to be said. If the fan base hate the manager when he arrives, it ain't going to work out. He will have no kind of leeway when it comes to supporters. And from the outside, like we're outsiders, you and I aren't Leicester fans, it's gone okay, really. Not amazing, but it's gone okay. This squad is a bottom 6 squad. They are in the bottom 6, but not bottom of the bottom 6. I think the bottom 6 as is likely to remain the same. I'd probably take Crystal Palace out of it, but beyond that, I think that's probably what it's going to be. And I think that Leicester have every chance of going down this season, whether 𝗀𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗍𝗀 is in or Steve Cooper is in. So the fact they've got 10 points from 12, the fact they've got a couple of wins, the fact they've scraped 4 draws, pretty decent, really. So I think if it wasn't for the fact that Steve Cooper was so universally unpopular on arrival, I think there's every chance he might have stayed in charge here. I don't know about Van Nistelrooy. As you mentioned, he's not appointed as we record this, but unlikely to be in charge for this weekend. No great managerial experience. What he did for a couple of weeks of sweet relief at Man United means nothing. So we shall see how that goes. But in terms of this game, you can only really look at a Brentford win. Look at the Brentford home form, as you mentioned, best in the league, scoring plenty of goals. Away from home, Leicester City, that one victory they picked up in their 5 games. That was that kooky win at Southampton where they scored a couple of late goals, when actually they probably should have lost against Southampton the way the game went. But they have scored goals, and that's the important thing for Leicester. 9 goals in 6 away games is pretty decent going for any team, let alone a newly promoted one. You mentioned 18 in 6 for Brentford. Go goals, goals, goals. Brentford to win and over 3.5 goals in this match, which came in against Bournemouth, which came in against Ipswich, which came in against Wolves. That's the last 3 home games. I found it at 3.75. Really surprised me. So Brentford win, and Brentford win with goals.
Yes, the Brentford goals, to be honest, that's actually, I wouldn't say severe, but 73% or 75% of Brentford games have been over 2.5 goals, guys. So that absolutely something to take into account. Although over 2.5, I think is not paying that well at the moment. Over 3 on its own is 1.85. Totally agree with Tom, and this will be included in my ACCA, says Tyson. Brentford home record has been so good to win against Leicester, what Milad says. Hello, Viper, and so on. Keep commenting, guys, and leaving your tips. Crystal Palace, Newcastle, the next stop, Tom. Back in March, April, or May, I believe, if you had Crystal Palace winning 2-1 with 15 minutes to go, you will back them to win that game. But this season is not the case. That was the case in Villa Park. They were 2-1 up up to the 76th minute, and they end up drawing the game with Aston Villa. Just one win all season, which happened at home for Palace. But anyway, in Selhurst Park, they also lost 3 and drew 2. They are still in relegation zone. Newcastle has their own inconsistency, Tom. We haven't seen that coming. Newcastle losing against West Ham on Matchday 12. How do you see this one? Because I'm pretty surprised still with this Crystal Palace form, to be honest. And although we tend to believe that Crystal Palace at home is something that revitalized them, it haven't been the case so far this season.
Yeah, it turns out just playing a drum endlessly for 90 minutes in a very monotonous fashion does not an intimidating atmosphere make. There was no way of knowing. I mean, look, with Crystal Palace, I think that we haven't undersold it, but we certainly need to keep on mentioning it. They lost a really talented player in 𝐿𝐴 at the back end of last season. Once again, 𝗵𝗵𝗄 is continually injured, and that's been the issue with his career, really. And that there is talk that he might potentially be back for this one, coming back from his thigh injury. I have in my list here, but you never know with 𝗵𝗄𝗄. We thought that last week, and he didn't make a comeback. 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐴𝐺 has come in and is not a wide man. I mean, why would you buy 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐴𝐺 and play him wide? I don't understand why you would do that. Is there no conversation about where you're going to play people? Like, if you're Man City or Liverpool and you've got a big squad, you're going to do 70 games, you can buy someone to rotate. If you're Crystal Palace, you buy the strongest possible 11 that you can, and then hopefully have 2 good substitutes you can bring on, and then hope they stay fit. That's how you do it, 15-man squad or less. And instead, they have Jean-Philippe Mateta, who is the striker, and he's going to play up front every single game, and they buy 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐴𝐺 to replace 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐺 in the team, but he's not the right sort of player. Anyway, injured now anyway, but that transfer didn't make any sense to me. So loads of issues. And then defensively, I think last week there was some improvement. I think 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐺 at centre-half is really good. 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐺 is a good player. Mark Gay's had a real bad season. Evidently wanted to go to Newcastle. Didn't work out and has seemed a little bit off the boil all campaign.
Yeah.
But last week, I thought 𝐶halobah, 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐺 and Gay looked like a good trio. At times, it's been Nathaniel Klein and a few other people in there, which haven't quite worked. So better balance last week. I like the look of that young 𝗛𝗏𝗍 as well, who scored the second goal. Gave some energy to Palace, which has been missing. But I mean, it's Newcastle, really, I think, that are the story here. The second half against West Ham on Monday was shocking, frankly.
Yeah.
You know, West Ham and Newcastle in the first half was pretty even. Newcastle had a couple of chances. West Ham scored from a corner. And a couple more chances, Newcastle. Fabianski makes a couple of saves. And you think, well, look, good for West Ham being 1-0 up, but Newcastle are going to come on strong second half. And then nothing happened. Fabianski didn't make a save in the second period. West Ham added a second, and then it was over. And I was shocked, stunned, tried to do both words together there, to see empty seats, thousands and thousands of them with 10 minutes to go. You know, that normally suggests a general malaise. That suggests that fans have got no hope in the team, which is really surprising and not something I expected. Up front, Alexander Isak is fantastic, but he's struggling at the moment. Anthony Gordon is not scoring goals at the moment and creating goals. Harvey Barnes is a goal scorer, not really a creator, and he's not scoring goals. That's a surprise. Bruno Guimaraes struggled, I thought, second half against West Ham before he came off injured. There's a chance he might not play here. We'll see how his injury has developed over the week. It was just a general sense of malaise, which I thought was interesting about Newcastle. Plus Lloyd Kelly. Sorry, atrocious centre-half performance last week. You know, losing Sven Botman is big, but Lloyd Kelly came in and really got bullied by Antonio and Soucek and was constantly out of position. He was very poor. You can see why, I don't know, Mark Gay would have been a good signing for Newcastle. Anyway, couldn't pull that off, of course. So, look, tough one to predict this, but I think go Newcastle win at 2.42. Absolutely take that up front because you can't back Palace the way they played this season. Secondly, I think it'll be quite tight because both teams have really struggled for goals this season. At home, Crystal Palace have scored just 3 goals in the 6 games they have played at Selhurst Park. 2 draws, 1 win and 3 defeats. For Newcastle, we saw it. They struggled against West Ham in the last game. They are averaging just over a goal a game away from home, 8 in 6, but 13 in 12. Again, really tight margins here for every Newcastle result. So go for a group, 1-0, 2-0 or 2-1. Brings you in a reasonably okay 3.5 is 2.3 here. That's come down since I found it this morning. It was better than that earlier. Anyway, that's the bet I go for.
Yeah, Sai Tyson saying, to be fair, Newcastle to win have pretty good odds, and it's true. And as much it's been shocking that second half against West Ham. The reality is the same team that have beaten before, playing West Ham, Arsenal, and Nottingham Forest away. So why not to back Newcastle in Selhurst Park? From Crystal Palace, Newcastle to Nottingham Forest, Ipswich. 3 consecutive wins for Forest. Now they arrive to Matchday 13 at the back of 2 consecutive defeats. Anyway, very good season still for them. Tom 7th with 19 points. Ipswich in relegation zone, but having seen both last weekend, I would say that I was more impressed with Ipswich against Manchester United than with Forest in the Emirates. Ipswich could have won it. Delap had 2 big chances saved by Onana. And Forest, I don't know why Nuno dropped Chris Wood. I understand, yes, the long traveling after the international break, but even if he can only walk on the pitch, on his present form, I would never have taken him out. We are talking about 8 goals this season for Chris Wood, actually 2.5 for Chris Wood to score anytime. Do you see Forest being so favourite here, or even a double chance for Ipswich, which is over 2, looks good for you, Tom?
Well, look, as a rule of thumb, if you've got a team that have won 1 game in 12, you don't put them in your bet. So I'm not going to put Ipswich in my bet. That's a general rule. There's no form to suggest they can get over the line in games. I know it's 3 games undefeated, but I just couldn't do it. And in terms of Chris Wood, look, I do agree to a point, but that trip from New Zealand, if you've done that flight, if anyone watching has done that flight.
No, I've never done it, so I don't know.
I flew back from Australia, not New Zealand, but that flight, the direct flight to London, it was like, I forget now, it's like 12 hours or something, and you get home and you're like a zombie for like days and days and days. And he played a couple of games. He scored, I think, several goals for New Zealand during the international break. So I'm not surprised he didn't play him. You get it a lot as well. It's a lesser flight, but when players come back from Mexico or America, South America, Central America, if they play on the Thursday, playing on the Saturday is just, it's almost impossible, I think. So I get it. I see why he did it. And also, when it goes 2-0, what's the point bringing him on? Nuno's a pragmatist. He's a smart manager, and I think he made the right decision. And we're going to get a sharp Chris Wood here. He's not in my injury list, so he's going to be fit and ready to play. And at home against Ipswich, he could cause some serious damage. And I think the issue as well with Nottingham Forest is they only really play one way, which is, low block. The formation will be strong. The 2 defensive midfielders, led by Ryan Yates, will be combative. And they'll be able to rotate those players, buzzing around Chris Wood. Hopefully, 𝗵𝗻𝗄's going to be fit and available. 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝗀 and whomever else they play in that group. Dominguez can push forward. All players who can replace each other and offer the same thing. So it didn't work last week. First goal is going to be crucial. If they get the first goal, they more invariably go on to win that game. In terms of Ipswich, they're a football team, so that'll play perfectly, I think, in Nottingham Forest's hands. And look, they should have won last week against Manchester United. But if you can rev up the engines and you can go all out to beat Man United, who are still a poor team, that's what surprised me. I think I got drawn into the Amorim hype last week and the wins for Ruud van Nistelrooy. But he's obviously going to make big changes to the way Manchester United play. So they looked a little bit raw and rough and ready last week, and Ipswich could have capitalised, but didn't. And that's the thing. They didn't get the second goal they deserved. And that's a story that cannot keep replicating if they are going to stay in this division. Winning now is all that matters. It doesn't really matter if you're the best football team in the bottom 3. Means nothing. No one's going to remember that. Only your owner, who's going to sack you. So in terms of this game, I wouldn't bet on Ipswich. You just can't. And look at their away form as well. They've conceded lots of goals, bar the win at Tottenham, which was a shock. Lots of teams have put 2 or 3 past them. So Forest win, up and down. Absolutely take that as the first tip. Secondarily, Chris Wood is going to play. So Chris Wood to score and Nottingham Forest to win brings you in at double your money. It's happened a lot this season, as you mentioned, 8 goals. Absolutely take that. And also, to be slightly brave here, a minus 1.5 handicap and a Forest win. I think they could do to Ipswich what they did to West Ham. If they get the first goal, the second will come, and that will be your bet. That comes in at 2.88.
Viper, Forest are normally strong at home, it's true, and we'll keep it simple for them to win and both teams to score. Milan, Nottingham wins and under goal sounds good to me. 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜 is going back to the Crystal Palace Brentford, saying that Brentford win and both teams to score. That's for sure. 𝗀𝗵𝗄, Ipswich is a pretty decent team. Yes, we know that, but it's true that their relegation or not won't be decided against Manchester United. It's mostly likely this type of games we're gonna decide their fate. So from Forest Ipswich, to Wolverhampton Bournemouth. Wolves had to wait 3 months for the first win of the season, but now they are on 2 consecutive wins. To score 4 against Fulham in Craven Cottage is not for everyone, especially when they have done it or they have won it from behind. Matheus Cunha scored a brace. He already has 7, likely to beat his 12 goals from last season. He's clearly, Tom, I believe, above the level of his team, in my view. He could have thrown away this season after seeing like teammates like Kilman or Pedro Neto departing for big money. But we have seen that. I mean, we have seen that many times with talented players, but he has taken some responsibility trying to lead this team. For Bournemouth, after the win against City, 2 consecutive defeats for them. Away from home, 1 win all season for Iraola's team. The odds are very good either way. We go X1, X2. We settle for a draw. What's your view?
Well, I think the Wolverhampton Wanderers piece is interesting because we've said on here since the first week of the season they won't go down, they won't be in relegation trouble. But when you get to like 10 games, you're a bit like, oh, I don't know now. Yeah. 10 games is a long time without winning a game. There's green shoots and there's good things, but defensively poor, the midfield balance has been off. And then there's a few teams last week where it clicked, and Wolves were one of them. Your midfield 3 of Gomez, Andre and Lamina worked really well. You mentioned Matheus Cunha. You know I hate he's so good he could play for somebody else, but I do absolutely get your point. I think he's fantastic, 25 years of age, will probably be the next big Wolves sale. But, you know, for their sake, I hope he stays and they build a team around him because he's absolutely fantastic. Scores great goals, plays various positions. And there was points last week where the link-up play with Larson up front worked, which was good. So the better players being fit, you win games. There's no way of knowing. In terms of Bournemouth, look, they are obviously a very good team, but I do think that it was always going to stall out at some point. And the game against Brighton, if anyone didn't see that game last week, go back and watch it. It was so fun. It was such a great game. I was watching it in the green room at my work at TalkSport, and just I couldn't take my eyes off it. There was Arsenal were playing at that time, and the Wolves game was going on, but I was watching it because it was fantastic. Like Brighton scored a couple of goals, 𝗵𝗵 gets sent off. And for Bournemouth, Kluivert was fantastic. Evan Nielsen getting in behind, kept coming in waves of attacks. 𝐼𝐭𝐻𝐿 overlapping, the late Semenyo volley, which hit the crossbar. You know, they only play one way, Bournemouth, and it's a real ultra-attacking style, and it's a real overwhelm the opposition style. And at times they did overwhelm Brighton last week, but couldn't get over the line. That will be the story of it a fair amount of times for Bournemouth, because even though they're fantastically coached and they've got a lot of potential, it's still a relatively low-quality squad. And so he's getting elite performances from people who are kind of relegation battle-type players. Great credit to Iraola and the players themselves for doing that. How's this game's going to go? Well, I think I'd go Wolves win on current form. 2 victories in a row against 2 losses in a row. Obviously, that's what you've got to do. I think the Wolves are going to be able to claw their way up the table. And the amazing thing about Wolves, too, they've scored 20 goals. So it's 20 scored, it's 28 conceded, 6 against Chelsea in one game. So maybe take that out of the average, and it's still 2 goals a game, which is not amazing. But they are able to score goals. And defensively, I think they looked good last week. Probably the best defensive performance they put in all season. And you mentioned Bournemouth's away form. It simply hasn't been good enough. I think they'll probably continue here. 1-1 in 6. No wins in the last 4. It's 5 games ago they last won. So Wolves win up and down. The odds are pretty good there. I'm quite surprised at 2.85. Just for a Wolves win. That's like double your money. So take that. We mentioned Matheus Cunha. Got to back him to score 2 last week. He's a man in form. Cunha to score and Wolves to win. Decent money to be made there as well. And we mentioned the goals. Over 3.5 goals in this match and Wolves win is 7. Now, it's happened plenty of times this season. It happened last week. It's happened in home wins, home defeats. Lots of games. So take that at 7. Take the Cunha bet. And the Wolves up and down. If you do fancy Bournemouth, again, look at the over. We found that at 5.5, over 3.5, and Bournemouth win. So I'm going Wolves, but there's a nice Bournemouth bet there too.
Absolutely, and I expect as well goals in that one, in the Wolverhampton game. And from there, the last one on Saturday, actually, West Ham Arsenal in Southeast London. A good week for Arsenal anyway, Tom, after the international break. Comfortable win with Forest on Saturday, with Odegaard returning to the starting lineup. A great win away in Lisbon on Tuesday night, where I think for the first time, if everyone is fit, we saw the best 11 for Arteta. I hope 𝗵𝗵𝗍𝗀 as well learned the lesson from that defeat with Chelsea at home. We can't play a high line against teams that can run so well to the space and that they have so many good passers, and Arsenal is one of them as well. With Newcastle, was a good win, of course, for West Ham. 𝗀𝗵𝗿𝗀, I believe, has taken a little bit of fresh air, but I guess the pressure will return again on Saturday if West Ham do not put on a convincing performance. Tom, I like the partnership Soler-Soucek in midfield, or at least I like them more than 𝐜𝐨𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜 or one of them with Thomas Soucek. Last 3 home games, 2 wins and a draw for the Hammers. Will you trust West Ham, or shall we expect maybe the typical game where Arsenal score first and early and the game is gone, Tom?
I wouldn't bet West Ham here, frankly. I think the odds suggest it's going to be an underdog kind of performance in West Ham. But look, on them, the last win against Newcastle was incredibly unexpected for lots of reasons. Nothing had gone right for West Ham. But it's evident to me, if you look at some of the running statistics from Monday, you drop Guido Rodriguez, who literally can't run, and you replace him with someone who can run, and they run more. Lucas Paqueta put in his best performance of the season. To be fair, there wasn't a great deal of other performances of note. He actually played well at Newcastle, which is really important. He is their most talented player. And so for him to play well, West Ham play well. It's no surprise. Cole Palmer plays well for Chelsea. Chelsea play well. It's true of almost every single team. Kevin De Bruyne plays well for Man City. Man City play well. Paqueta plays well for West Ham. West Ham play well. And Soler I was surprised about because we've barely seen him. I haven't really seen him since he played for Valencia. And that was how many years ago? Like 4 years ago? Did nothing at PSG that I'm aware of, though, to be fair. I don't watch Ligue 1. But I never really saw him do anything in the Champions League for PSG. So it was good to see him do what he was supposed to do for West Ham, which is get his foot on the ball, carry him up the field, and actually be able to run around in central midfield. They did make Soucek play slightly deeper, which is not necessarily his strongest game, but the 3 made sense in midfield. So I hope Rodriguez doesn't come back in because he's just no good for this league. I'm sure he's been good elsewhere, but I've only ever seen him play for West Ham, and he's only ever been utterly useless. So no business playing. And Edson Alvarez is now available. Wouldn't bring him back in. He's a total liability, Edson Alvarez. He's let himself down so many times for West Ham. And at this point, if I was 𝗀𝗵𝗿𝗀, I'd be, no, thank you. Thank you, but no thank you. I kind of a defensive midfielder I can't trust to that degree. I'd be looking at selling Edson Alvarez if I was 𝗀𝗀𝗿𝗃, because 𝗀𝗀𝗃𝗃 is now going to stay because he got that win. And I think it takes the pressure off this game, actually. They're not expected to beat Arsenal. And it's worth noting, too, in West Ham's opening kind of run of home games this season, it's Liverpool next. So it's Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, Man United, Aston Villa. Like, they've had last year's top 6 at home. And the other games where Everton should have won it, didn't do it, and Ipswich Town, which they did. Beyond that, it's been really tough games for 𝗀𝗀𝗃𝗃. He's not had the easiest run of home games. So I feel sorry for me in that regard. In terms of Arsenal, putting their best performance for over a year against Sporting Club de Portugal in midweek. They were fantastic. But they were good last week as well in the Premier League. Bukayo Saka has been injured for a lot of the season, clearly fully fit now. Looks really good. His first goal against Forest last week was outstanding. The midfield is back with Partey and Rice and Ødegaard, obviously, most notably. So the first choice midfield is back. The first choice defense is back. A few weeks ago, West Ham were useless too, but you might have had some doubt here. But Arsenal were purring in midweek. And they won this game, I think, 6-0 last season. Yep. I don't think it's going to be like that, but I do think Arsenal are going to come out firing and score plenty of goals early doors. And I feel bad for West Ham because they just didn't need this game next. The Newcastle performance was so good and they hit on so many good moments, but they just need a run of games that are more winnable, which they have coming up after this. They're not going to win them all, but they're winnable. I don't see this as a winnable game for anybody right now with how good Arsenal were in midweek. So look, what do we bet on here? We'll take Arsenal up and down to win at 1.5. It's actually quite short. I'm surprised by how short that is. And then you've got to look at the handicap market. Minus 2.5 for Arsenal is 4.5. I found that this morning. That's a 3-0 victory. Can absolutely see that happening. In terms of Arsenal away from home this season, it hasn't been particularly convincing. 2 wins in 6, 2 draws. But again, the first team is back. The 5 in midweek. That convinces me. West Ham have conceded 10 goals at home this season. Have looked a little bit defensively susceptible. So I'd probably take that. Minus 3.5. I don't think this will happen. But as it was 6-0 last year, and as they scored 5 in midweek, Arsenal, you can get that for 10. I think go for an Arsenal win and go for them to win 2-0, 3-0 or more. But 4 seems excessive. But 10, it happened last year. And they're scoring goals. So I'd probably take that.
And Bukayo Saka to score anytime 2.5, which as well could very likely happen as well in southeast London. Genepi big Arsenal win. They are hungry. I agree with Tom. Viper, no pressure on West Ham. I can see under 2.5 goals. I see it the other way. I can see goals in this one. So that's for Saturday. And then on Sunday, we start with a very good one. Chelsea, Aston Villa. A month ago, I don't know, Tom, if we would have seen the odds pointing so massively in favor of Chelsea against Villa. But yes, Villa is 7 matches in all competitions without a win. At least the draw on Saturday with Crystal Palace put an end to a run of 4 consecutive defeats. They have conceded 11 goals in the last 6 matches in all competitions, when in the previous 5 they have conceded just 2. I don't know if you think it's a question of defense only, because on Sunday they will be tested by the second best attack in the Premier League. You mention often the odds on Palmer to score or to assist, or Nicholas Jackson to score anytime, and they have regularly paid off, to be honest. The only team in the top 8 anyway against whom Chelsea have won is Brighton so far. Could Aston Villa be that big win that everyone is waiting from Chelsea? Can you see that happening on Sunday?
Well, the form suggests it, definitely. I think you're right to pick out a few things there. And Nicholas Jackson, I mean, I keep betting on this, and I'm going to do it again, spoiler alert, today. He's scoring goals regularly, 7 now in the Premier League, 3 or 4 assists in that run as well. Really effective player. You know, the player we had at this stage last season, it's around about now. He had that game against Tottenham where he scored a bunch of goals, but could have scored a bunch more. And the Chelsea fans were calling him Miss Jackson, like the Outcast song, because he kept on missing. That ain't this player. The goal he scored against Leicester last week, it's frighteningly good. It's undervalued almost because there's so many cock-ups at the back from Leicester. But like the way he wins the ball, the way he's played the way he nips it over the defender to score, it's really good. Like, it's a phenomenal goal he scores. Leads the line well, scoring goals, great attitude, physically demanding, the finesse of the finish, all of it. Love Nicholas Jackson right now. And I think he's probably, as we speak, the best striker in the league on current form, you know, not overall, but looking fantastic. And maybe Chelsea just starting to convince people. I think that's probably how I would put it, because understandably, first few weeks, new manager, there's a couple of mistakes, a couple of errors, a couple of kind of anomalous results. But last week against Leicester, look, Leicester are a poor team, and they sacked the manager post-game. But there was a control about Chelsea that was impressive. I don't rate Enzo Fernandez in this league. He's a bit Guido Rodriguez-y, but he was very good last week in for Romeo Lavia. I think if Lavia is fit, I'd still bring Lavia in for with Caicedo. That's a better pairing. We'll see what Enzo Maresca does. That's a high-quality problem. But 𝐿𝐵 looks so sharp. I watched the Conference League game he played in a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't the Noah game. It was the one before that. Forgive me, I can't remember the opponent. But they were so good. And he looked really sharp and really good. And I think that Felix being on form, Palmer being on form, Madueke being on form, you know, all of it coming together. Offensively good, defensively good. Midfield looks strong. Got to love Chelsea at the moment. And they obviously are well buying into this manager as well, which makes a big difference. In terms of Aston Villa, you know, I watched the Juventus game last night. Yes, I watched that, not Real Madrid. What of it? Do I regret it now? Yeah, kind of. It was 0-0, but I watched it. And look, what's missing is a deep squad. You know, that is what's missing with Aston Villa. There's a couple of players who, you know, Duran began the season coming off the bench scoring goals. That's gone. Ollie Watkins, before the go against Palace the weekend, just gone, was having a goal drought. Morgan Rogers, who should have had a goal at the back end of the game last night, wrongly disallowed in my view, but running games, but they're running on empty by the end of it. And defensively, you know, they haven't got their strongest defensive lineup. They cannot get that best 4 players together because Pau Torres is struggling with an injury, or 𝐬𝐿𝐵 𝗀𝐿 is struggling, or Matty Cash is out. So, you know, they're just having to rejig it every week. And that happens when you don't just have European football. Like last season, it was Conference League. It's tough to play Conference League and Premier League, but you can rotate if you're playing lower level opposition. Can't rotate if you've got Bayern Munich and Juventus. Like, can't do it. And he's not been able to, Unai Emery. And that, I think, has contributed to the struggles they have had. So you can only really look at a Chelsea win here on form. You mentioned how many games it's been since Villa last won. Chelsea look fantastic, so take them to win straight up and down. Also, my regular bet for Nicholas Jackson to score and Chelsea to win. I'm doing it every week because it's come in 7 times, 3.5. And just to add a little spanner in the works here, I have been doing this show for a couple of seasons. Every single time I've had confidence in Chelsea, they haven't won. Every time. Under Pochettino, under Maresca, it just keeps on happening. So just look at the draw. Just look at the draw at 4.4. I think Chelsea and Jackson win. That's where I'm going. I think they win by scoring at least 2 goals. Absolutely. But the draw market, Villa have got 4 draws this season. Chelsea have got 4 draws this season. Chelsea often blow it when I'm confident in them. So blame me if it happens. But look at the draw as well.
Yeah, and Chelsea have had draws with the Nottingham Forest at home, with Arsenal at home as well. It's true, people are pointing out tonight Chelsea will rotate players for their Conference League. So as I think it was Janepi put in, it's a big squad against short squad, maybe on on Sunday in a way. But definitely I expect a very good game in Stamford Bridge. Next, we have Manchester United Everton. Is going to be Ruben Amorim's first match in Old Trafford. We saw his idea, which is not little to see at least the manager's idea on his first game in charge, and after only 2 sessions with the full squad able to train. But also, I had the feeling watching them against Ipswich that yes, they had the problem with the manager, and that's why they changed them. Why they changed Ten Hag. But my feeling as well was like, maybe it's not just the manager. Maybe they're just not good enough so far with many of their players. They are 6 points away from Champions League spots, although they may have a better chance using the Europa League to reach Champions League. Since the defeat with West Ham, 2 wins and 1 draw for the Red Devils. Everton, we mentioned before with Brentford, could not get the 3 point against a 10-man beast. Just 1 defeat for them in the last 8 overall in the Premier League, but many draws for Everton. 5 draws so far in that run for the Toffees. Should the season be different now with Amorim, Tom? The last 3 times they face each other, Manchester United won all 2-0. If that happens again on Sunday, 2.63. But I don't know, how do you see it?
Well, I think with Manchester United, you're right to say you can see what he's going to try and do last weekend. And we knew what he was going to do, right? He was going to come in and do the same sort of setup he had at Sporting, and he's going to try and get the right players over time. The trouble is, for this game and for this season, it's an Erik Ten Hag squad. Like, it really is an Erik Ten Hag squad. It's been built for him. The players that have come in to suit what he wanted to do. And that's not this. So, Ahmed is now, I don't know what Ahmed is, frankly, but he's now the right wing back. We'll see how that works out. Still having to play Johnny Evans because Martinez is continually injured. There's going to come a point, I think, with Lisandro Martinez where they've got to cut their losses because he's always out. He's a good player and might well work in this 3 at the back, but I think I'd be having that conversation now about how many games he misses. And Harry Maguire, look, he's still out, Maguire, but I do think in a 3 at the back, Maguire can be really good. So if you are going to do 3 at the back, I think there might be a bit of a renaissance at Man United for Maguire, but he's missing as well. They started well and faded. Marcus Rashford, he's not a central striker. I can't believe we're doing this again. Another manager's coming and trying to make him the striker. Like, no. Okay, no, he's not the striker. He's never going to be the striker. He's a left-sided forward, and you might have a really good left-sided forward here. But don't play him the striker. Going to go through that nonsense again. Fair enough. But to be fair, like Garnacho doesn't really do much in games. Not particularly effective player. I mean, there's just loads of it really for Man United. There's loads to solve for Ruben Amorim, and maybe he'll win this game. But I think the rest of this season's pretty much a write-off. Like, they ain't going to make the top 4. I think there's every chance they might finish top 6, top 7 with the budget they have and whatnot, but and the quality of players they have compared to the rest, but nowhere near the caliber of the top 3. I wouldn't put them anywhere near Chelsea or Tottenham. I think they might well, on a good run, compete with Newcastle, West Ham, Brighton maybe for 7th. And maybe that's what the ownership have accepted. They're going to write this season off. We will see. In terms of Everton, wow, what a watch they are. I mean, Brentford had 10 men for an hour last week, and who thought they were going to score? Nobody. They had that late chance. I think Beto had a shot that was blocked on its way through. Beyond that, I mean, it's not a great squad, okay? I'll absolutely take that point from Everton. It's better than this. It's better than this. Like, the Sean Dyche way is so dry. It's so tough to watch. It's so play the percentages at all times. It's nullified anything that we might have got out of some of these players. And are they going to go down this season? Like, maybe. Yeah, maybe. I still don't think they will. They'll be in a relegation battle unless they change something dramatically. But awful to watch. No offensive plan. Sean Dyche clearly can't get it out of them. He would need new players to do it, and they're not going to get new players for financial reasons. So, good defensively, I guess you could say, in the last couple of games. Didn't concede against West Ham, didn't concede against Brentford, only won against Southampton, only won against Fulham. So it's 2 goals conceded in 4. Well done. Great stuff. 𝐿𝐭𝐚𝐲 and 𝗵𝗏𝗿𝗏 are a decent pairing. They've got lots of players, be it Mangala or Ghana or whoever, can protect the defense. But I don't know how they're going to score. They don't even score corners anymore. Like the 𝐿𝐴𝐴 deep delivery to 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐲 has stopped working. Beyond that, what is there? I don't see much hope with Everton. Look, let's get to it. Man United win. Take it, 1.5. Absolutely run with that. I think it's going to be an underscore line. I don't see Man United running away with it because Everton can defend, but I can't see Everton scoring. Man United win, under 2.5 goals. Take it at 4. Don't watch this.
Yes, actually, Viper as well, pointing to the under 2.5 goals market. 𝗀𝗍𝗍, as you mentioned, Tom, agreeing with you, United squad does not fit Amorim's tactics, and that was clearly to see on Ipswich. Maybe that left winger at some point could be 𝐿𝐿𝐴𝐴. Who knows if he stays fit, because otherwise Garnacho cannot do that. Rashford, actually, the problem with him is like he doesn't like to track back. So how he's gonna play there on the left? 𝐿𝐴𝐴 was useless as Højlund. So we'll see what Amorim does against Everton. Also on Sunday, Tottenham Fulham. After the demolition of Manchester City last Saturday, everyone, I guess, Tom, will be pointing to Tottenham getting the 3 points. But I guess Spurs supporters as well might be a little bit worried, because after winning 3-0 at Old Trafford, the following game, what happened? A defeat with Brighton in a game they were winning 2-0. After destroying West Ham in the second half to win from behind, what happened? They lost to Crystal Palace. After thrashing Aston Villa again in a very good second half, a defeat with Ipswich. So, which we will see what's going to unfold against Fulham. Fulham that also went ahead against Wolves, and they end up losing 4-1. They could have been above Tottenham coming into this game if they would have taken the 3 points against Wolverhampton. I don't know if it's X1, X2, but goals for sure here, Tom, and especially maybe playing Tottenham at home, goals in the second half. Both teams to score second half 2.5, but should Tottenham win this game and finally be a little bit more consistent, Tom?
Are you reading my notes on Tottenham? Did I send these to you? That's what I was going to say. Yeah, no, I think it's. I think the Tottenham form is wild, right? You've highlighted it there. It's insane what happens to them. How you can beat Man City a couple of times and lose to Ipswich and Crystal Palace. I don't know. Football is a funny old game. But I do think there's a couple of things to note on Tottenham. Firstly, Europa League, after we record this, so, we don't know exactly if anyone's injured, anything happened. Secondly, the loss of 𝑉icario is huge. It's a huge loss in goal. Apparently, he played with a fractured ankle during the game against Man City, which...
that's mad.
Wild, right? I mean, I broke my ankle and I was out for 6 months. And when it happened to me, I was lying on the playground floor screaming. I was like 13. I wasn't an adult in a school. I was screaming for someone to come and help me. And I was in agony. And he played for another 20 minutes against Man City. So that was a bit wild.
But also, I'm sorry, he's brave, and that was why. But also tells you maybe a lot of what 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 thinks about the Foster if he needs to come on.
Are you reading my notes? Yes, it does.
Come on.
Fraser Forster. I mean, the guy who put in that amazing performance, I think, against Barcelona for Celtic in the Champions League a decade ago is long gone. And now you've got a real, with all due respect, he is meant to be the number 3. Good campaigner, good career behind him, but shouldn't be playing. And we saw that against Gala in the Europa. So I have my issues there. Plus, there's still no Van de Ven. There might be Romero, I'm led to believe, but there's going to be no Van de Ven. No Romero likely out. And so it does mean Davis and Dragusin. And look, they were good last week, sure. But that isn't a top-level pairing. So that would concern me. In terms of Fulham, they struggled last week against Wolves, who played them off the park. They scored amazing goals, Wolves. And as the game went on, Wolves got stronger and stronger and stronger. And I still have, I've said this for weeks and weeks, it hasn't come to fruition, but maybe it is. I don't like the defensive pairings they can put together. I don't like 𝐿𝐵𝗵𝗏𝗏𝗏. I think every single game is an accident waiting to happen. I think in the continued absence of 𝐿𝐿𝐶𝐿𝐶 in central midfield, I'd like to see Harrison Reed play a bit more for Fulham. but he is injured again going into this game. So I think there's a balance there that's been off. And I'm just reading as well that 𝐷𝗵𝗏𝗀 likely out missing in this game as well. So there's going to be no particular defensive midfield. It's going to be quite offensive looking, forward-looking midfield, which can work and has worked. But I would be concerned for Fulham if Tottenham have Bissouma and Sarr in midfield. You know, they bullied City at times last week off the ball. I suppose the issue is, can they do it on the ball, which they'll do against Fulham. So it's always brave betting on a Tottenham game. But if you're picking a winner, take Tottenham to win. 1.73 is okay. I think both teams are going to score in this game. We mentioned earlier on the amount of goals scored by both teams this season. 27 scored for Tottenham in 12 games. Insane numbers. Fulham at 17 is still pretty decent. So both teams to score and Tottenham win. They'll pick a winner you like. That's 2.75 for Tottenham. Last week, 𝐸𝐭𝐿𝐻𝐿 was incredible for Spurs. I think he looks fitter than he's ever looked, sharp. He looks undroppable. They can play him at 10. They can play him on the wing. They can play him at 8. Wherever he plays, he looks fantastic. 𝐿𝐻𝐿 to assist at 4.33 is one I really like. Always pick a player if you can on form to do what they've been doing. That's really good odds there. But also, I'll just mention too, do look at the Fulham odds. It's worth looking at it. It might be worth a punt if you're taking a punt on something this weekend, only for the Tottenham form element. Forget anything you think about Fulham. Tottenham find a way to throw games like this. They have done forever. So if you just fancy a crazy punt this weekend, it might just be a Fulham win at 4.7.
Yeah, and that partnership is true that against Haaland they were all right, Dragusin and Ben Davies, but for example, both of them together against Galatasaray, it was a mess. I'm not suggesting that Raúl Jiménez is Victor Osimhen, but we are talking about having to deal with a big striker. Tyson, Tottenham should win, but like the chat says, I can't trust and won't bet on this game. 𝐿𝐿 Spurs easy, both teams to score. Yeah, many pointing to that, to both teams to score. It's true. They're also pointing out Tottenham is playing tonight against Roma in North London. So we will see if they rotate as well or what impact that have on the Sunday game. And then the last one, and we've been building for this one, Tom, Liverpool, Manchester City, 17 wins in 19 games for Liverpool this season, for Arne Slot. Last night against Real Madrid, you said, okay, you watch Aston Villa 0, Juventus 0, but they dominated from start to finish. Was again another very good performance from them. I think we had a little peek into the future of next season because Van Dijk and Salah, they start, and Alexander-Arnold was benched and didn't even play a single minute. Even when Bradley got injured, Joe Gomez came in and no Trent Alexander-Arnold, because I believe from the three of them, I think we're going to still see Van Dijk and Salah in a Liverpool shirt next season, but I don't think so we're going to see Alexander-Arnold anymore from 25-26. Against Southampton, I don't think they play very well, but with all the options and quality they have, plus Southampton mistake, of course, they were always going to take the 3 points. Manchester City did not lose against Feyenoord for a sixth consecutive match, but it felt like they lost another game. The trajectory, Tom, couldn't be more different coming into this game. If Liverpool wins, it's over for City. The odds on Liverpool are very good.
My first bet is that Pep Guardiola's cut his nails since we last saw him. And that's for the best, I think. Like, that didn't come... He looked awful, didn't he? Looked so bad post-match. And look, we've all done it. You know, when you got no hair and sometimes you're stressed and you scratch your head, we've all done it and gone, oh, why have I done that? But it just... The one on the nose was terrible. What are you doing? Like, get him some mittens like a newborn is what they need for this game.
Yes, yeah.
Coming up. Look, in terms of the game, like Liverpool, I have watched the Real Madrid game back. Watched it last night, the highlights, and some of it back this morning. It's on the TV next to me now, funnily enough. But look, I think the Alexander-Arnold thing is interesting. I think if he is fit enough, and I think that probably is part of it, the way he didn't come on last night as well. He comes in for Conor Bradley, who did get injured in the game. I think you'd have to do that. I think Slot is going to do that if he's fit enough. That gives you the strongest back line if everyone is fit from last night. Ryan Gravenberch, again, was incredible last night. Every time I've seen him this season, he's been so important for Liverpool. Pushing him slightly back to that sort of 6 role has been pivotal to Liverpool this season. McAllister was great. Nunez looks sharp. Salah looks like he's in incredible shape. I mean, on and on we could go about how good Liverpool have been. The only doubt would be how much exertion there was against Real Madrid on Wednesday, and will they be fully recovered for a game against Man City on the Sunday? That's the only doubt, right, I would have about Liverpool. But I mean, they're in danger of running away with this. Like we are getting to streaking away with the title territory here. There's no league in Europe currently like this for anybody. And if Liverpool win this, they go to 34 points. That'll be 11 clear of City.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long way to go, right? Long way to go, over half the season. But that's a huge amount to make up, considering too that City, a lot of problems. There are a lot of problems right now with Manchester City. You know, the Rodri miss is obvious. I think everyone watching this could highlight Rodri, but it's worth noting if you go back and watch Tottenham last week, 2 of the goals, when 𝗛𝗏𝗏𝗀 plays that ball randomly into central midfield, who would be there to save the day? Rodri would have been there to save the day, as previously Fernandinho would have been there to save the day. And Rico Lewis and gundogan were not there. And that led to some space that Tottenham exploited. And the Grealish pass that went into nowhere in particular, Rodri would have been there to stop that counter. The third goal, the Porro goal, when 𝗀𝐿𝐵𝐻𝑚 is running through players and he nutmegs somebody, what would Rodri have done? Fouled him. He would have taken him out. Done the Man City Rodri foul, the Fernandinho foul, the tactical foul. No one did it. The break continued. They went on to score. So actually, 3 of the goals last week, I would say, may not have happened if Rodri was there. That is significant. They don't have anyone else who is doing that. And any midfield they can put together for this game, it's not going to have that in it. So they've taken their eye off the ball there a bit, City. Maybe they should push someone like John Stones into central midfield if he is fit, just to do destroyer stuff, which they've not been doing particularly well. Haaland has stopped scoring. That's a concern in the league, and we'll see how that plays out. But he was very quiet against Tottenham last week. 𝗛𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀 made a couple of saves, but nothing particularly taxing. I think Kevin De Bruyne, if fit, has to play. You could see when he came on against Spurs, the huge jump in quality they had, because the rest of them ain't doing it. There's a whole bunch of players that are just not delivering. And also, Bernardo Silva suddenly playing at left back at long spells of a game. Like, no, that's overthinking it. Defenders defend, forwards go forward, start from there and try and get clever from that point. So, look, City are, across the last 4 years, the best team in England. For my money, they've been the best and most consistent team in Europe. And there's every chance they turn it around in this game. It's a huge game. But on form, how could you possibly bet on it? 3 wins in a row for Liverpool, 3 losses in a row in the league for Manchester City. Liverpool win. You know, it's rare to get Liverpool win at home at 2.18. So take it. Just take it. You're like, that's a rare one. It's still under 2-1. But again, throw in an accumulator, put it with something else. There's every chance it comes in. In the league, Mo Salah's form has been irresistible. So Salah scores and Liverpool win will be the top tip here, because he does it a lot against Man City, doing it a lot right now in the Premier League. And at 4, I think that's something you have to take. You can pick your own favourite scorer if you like, but Salah would be mine. And also here, minus 1.5 for Liverpool to win. Really surprising. Also came in at 4. I was really surprised by that. That's a 2-0 win or more. And again, it's 10 wins in a row. 10 wins in it across the season, forgive me. 3 wins in a row. 4 wins in 5. 24 goals scored across the season for Liverpool. The only loss was that game against Forest. City aren't going to play like that. And at the moment, City are conceding lots of goals as well. 17 goals conceded for City. More than Chelsea, more than Arsenal, more than Brighton, more than Tottenham, more than Forest. The same as Fulham, more than Newcastle. Incredible. It's incredible. They've conceded the same amount of goals as Crystal Palace, who are 19th in the table. Yeah. It's mind-blowing. So I think City will concede more than 1, and Liverpool are going to run out winners. So minus 1.5 is 4.
And I think it was Milad asking you before if you will think of a double chance at some point, maybe for Manchester City. 1.7 the chance of a draw or a win for Manchester City. But what is for sure, I cannot remember the time on a Premier League game we saw those odds on Manchester City, which tell us a lot about the moment they are on. All right, that's absolutely everything, guys, you need to know for Matchday 14 in the Premier League. Guys, remember that a new month is coming, so you can participate in our tipster competition for December and win cash prizes. You can also challenge your friends or your working colleagues, perhaps in our new rival contest. Just visit Oddspedia.com and you will find all the info you need. If someone is looking for a good bet, Tom, which one will be your safe bet?
Safe bet is Arsenal this weekend. There's a few that could be safe. Maybe Brentford, maybe 1 or 2 others. But Arsenal at West Ham, the form they are in, they will go there and they will win.
And Yoraka?
𝐿𝐴CCA is a 3-teamer. Arsenal are in it because they are my safe bet of the weekend. Man United I'm going to take because it's the first home game, plus they're against Everton. And Liverpool beating City comes in at a really surprising 4.84 to go for Man U, Arsenal and Liverpool. It's quite high, that.
Fingers crossed then for that ACCA. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave us your comment in the video, your tips, your ACCAs. And Tom, we'll see you next week with 𝐸𝐻𝐸. 𝐸𝐸 is back with you guys next week. Thanks a lot, Tom.
Bye-bye.